Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman and thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, the Chicago Sky's championship win was a big moment for Chicago sports, but also for the women who play them. Two dedicated coaches take a shot at the future for girls in sports. Harold Washington's life and legacy playing out on the big screen. We'll look back at it with the producers of a new documentary. Joffrey Ballet dancers return to the stage in Home, a celebration.
The 2021 WNBA champions, your Chicago Sky!
But first tonight, the city is still celebrating the Chicago Sky's historic win. After the Sky beat the Phoenix Mercury 80-74, it was an exciting and significant victory for the city, fans, and women athletes. Here's what a few of them had to say.
I was super excited. I remember sitting on the tip of my seat and just calling my parents after the game was over, just telling them like Chicago Sky won and everything. So I'm super excited.
That was pretty awesome. I got a chance to go to the game and was kind of right there front row and center, and that was awesome. Just to even be there and watch, just to see the support and see Chicago and their fans and just everything just show up and show out for the Chicago Sky.
To see that many people support the Sky and what they did, their playoff runs, it's very exciting, and it makes you wonder where they came and what the attention will continue to bring throughout the couple of years for women's basketball.
I feel like they brought it to the town, and I feel like they gave them a name, and I feel like it's great because that's what girls needed.
It was so overdue. It was overdue, and at the same time, it was right on time. It was just what the city needed. It's just what women's sports and girls sports needed.
And historically, women's sports haven't received as much attention from fans or the media as men's. Women athletes are also often paid significantly less, and most of the time don't get the star treatment that we see for men. But this week might have felt like a bit of a turning point as we saw Chicagoans show their pride and support for the Sky. Joining us now with their take are ALECIA IVERY, Director of Innovation and Training for Girls in the Game, an organization that provides sports and leadership programs for girls, and ARMELIA HORTON, Assistant Coach for the Loyola women's basketball team. Thanks to you both for joining us. So first, I want to get your reactions to the Sky's historic win. ARMELIA, what was yours?
Just pretty exciting. Fortunately, we were able to bring our team to the semifinals game. So for them to be able to see that environment, it was a sold out crowd. Took us forever to find parking. It was just such an exciting time to be there.
Taking you forever to find parking, obviously an indication of the number of people that are there as well.
Sure.
And ALECIA, I know that you coach, but you are especially a big Sky fan, and you've been following the team since the beginning. How did this feel?
Yeah, I was super excited because, like you mentioned, I've been a fan since I was in high school because being a part of Girls in the Game, they came out to a lot of our programs, led basketball, and I was able to sit with one of the players, Dominique Canton's family, one year, my junior year of high school. So when we got them in 05, 06, it's just been fun just following their journey and just seeing them finally get over that hump. And Candace Parker coming back, couldn't tell the story better. So I've been super excited. The parade was awesome. The rally was awesome. So hopefully this momentum can continue for sure.
Absolutely. ARMELIA, as we mentioned, as we discussed, huge, showing for the Sky. Like the city and the fans really turned out for the team, more than what we've seen in years past. And we know the city likes to show up for its winners. But what do you think the future looks like for the Sky and women's sports in general?
I think, I know we keep saying it, put women's sports on TV. Viewership is up, ratings is up. to me, it's plain and simple, put it on TV. We have the media covering them. We have merchandise selling out. It's a huge time to be a women's basketball fan, for sure.
Is it as a women's basketball coach, is it ever frustrating or discouraging to see less attention given to women's sports? And how do you, what do you tell your players?
100% frustrating. We tell our players to, keep at it. Women's basketball has come a long way, and it's still ways to go. But just to understand that, again, viewership is up. We have merchandise, but on the flip side, Kahleah Copper is MVP, but we can't find her jersey in any stores. We have games on ESPN2, but why aren't they on ABC, or why aren't they on ESPN? So again, we have a long way to go, but I really am proud of what the WNBA has done in terms of growing its fan base.
Okay, so some work to be done, it sounds like. ALECIA, and I apologize, I said your name wrong earlier. Do you feel like, are you sensing a change or a shift happening in the coverage and attention that is paid to women's sports?
Yeah, and just like ARMELIA said, like there's still some work to be done, and why on those major networks those weren't the case. But I think this year being intentional about, like, they were on Twitter and Facebook and being creative about where they're broadcasting games to try to have a broader audience, I think is a good way to go. Just utilize all the different kinds of platforms there are to try to get the younger generation, watching it and that kind of thing. So I do think strategically they're doing a good job, especially this year, and just seeing the attendance at the Sky game in general, just like how we're seeing that increase in visibility. And I think the more visible, the better, because for us, them coming out to Girls in the Game, girls who probably haven't been able to see them on TV at that time will still able to have that interaction. So as much exposure that we can give to the young girls and high schoolers and things like that, so they can see that it's possible to get on that level, I think we're moving in the right direction. But like you said, we still have a good amount of way to go.
And as you just said, of course, this was something that was mentioned at the rally earlier this week as well, hearing a lot about this win being an inspirational moment, especially for young women and girls. Let's take a listen.
For women and girls. Oh, yeah, I hear you.
The dream was to showcase these incredible, athletic, powerful, strong women who lead and show up on and off the court. And, by the way, the large majority of whom are Black women.
Thank you for believing in women's sports here in Chicago.
And ARMELIA, what kind of impact can seeing women athletes, these professionals that we just saw win this week, being celebrated and acknowledged by all these elected officials, what kind of impact can that have on young athletes, but especially the young Black and brown athletes?
I think basically staying the course and hard work. Think about Candace Parker. 2 years ago, they voted her most overrated in the league. She came home and she won us a championship. And think about Kahleah Copper. Who would have thought? You look at their roster and you're going to pick out Kahleah Copper MVP of the finals. And she needed someone like Candace Parker to have her back and say, no, you're the new face of the Chicago Sky. So I just think stay in the course, keep working hard, seeing that if they can do it on that level, that you can do it, while you're younger.
And ALECIA, Girls in the Game is all about supporting and encouraging girls in sports. Why is it important to get girls involved in athletics? Yeah, and again, we all know, like, just moving your body, all of those fun things, getting fit is really important, just in all senses, mental health, physical health, all the above, right? But being able to, for us, being able to get the girls introduced to so many different sports, because sometimes they don't necessarily have the opportunities to get exposed to those at school or in their communities. So just to boost their confidence to go out and try and find opportunities to play sport when sometimes they're a little discouraged based on the population that's always playing, and maybe the boys are taking over and things like that. So I do think for us, being able to expose so many girls to different sports, and then again, seeing women out there doing and playing at a high capacity is always a good look. And then for me, as just a coach at elementary school level, seeing ARMELIA at Loyola, coaching is always inspiring. So seeing
for us coaches, but then also younger girls seeing players, I think both is just a good way to just inspire and get more in the field, because we're always trying to get more women and girls into sports, whether it's coaching, administration, all of the above.
All right, that's a good place to leave it. Thanks to you both, coach and coach, ALECIA Ivory and ARMELIA Horton, for joining us. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, a new documentary about Chicago's first black mayor. Stay with us. The story of Chicago's first black mayor is one of several documentaries hitting the big screen at the Chicago International Film Festival. Punch 9 for Harold Washington explores the life and legacy of the historic mayor who, as the city's first black mayor, faced racism on a daily basis. Take a look.
I remember that I was with him that day. And I'm going to get emotional saying this, but he looked at me and he said, "Kari, it's tough being a black man in the land of the free and the home of the brave."
It wasn't as scary as marching with King, but it was really close to it. You know, here you are, walking to church with the Vice President of the United States, and you're getting stoned.
And joining us are the film's producers, Sonya Jackson and Raymond Lambert. Thanks to you both for joining us. Sonya Jackson, let's start with you, please. Why did you want to produce this movie?
I wanted to produce the movie because it's such an important story, and it's a story that needed to be told. I spent a significant amount of my career in the corporate sector, and my career pivot was to storytelling about people of color, particularly African Americans, because there are so many of our stories that haven't been told. And so it was really important, and you know, to be part of it. I had the good fortune of meeting Raymond as all of this was starting to take place, and the timing was right. I moved to Chicago in 1987. And I moved to Chicago shortly before Harold Washington passed. And one of the things that, you know, always came up when I first got to the city, I'm from a small town from Iowa, people would always say, "Have you met Harold? Have you met Harold?" I'm like, "The mayor? Have I met the mayor? No." And so I was so fascinated not only by Harold Washington as a person, but also even some of the, you know, the racial and political experiences that I had in moving to Chicago in '87.
And this
so
movie certainly,
sort of a full circle moment.
Yeah, because this movie certainly covers a great deal of the racial political climate in Chicago. Raymond Lambert, Black Chicagoans, as we know, they came together to get Harold Washington elected. Talk briefly, if you would, about that movement and how you all reflected that in the documentary.
Well, it's really interesting because I hadn't, like Sonya, I'm not from Chicago, so I didn't move here until '91. So I was somewhat aware of it, but I wasn't really in the weeds with it. And once you get into the weeds of it, you realize that the voter registration and participation by Black voters at the time, for example, was 90%. So he was able to galvanize the community with a message of fairness and the idea that, you know, it's our turn. And this is an opportunity for us to come together as a city and complete, not just for Blacks, but for whites, for Latinos, for Indian, Asian, whoever the case was. If we can all come together in a coalition, then we can make the city a better place for everybody. So I think that message is the message that resonated for me in wanting to be a part of producing this film.
And Raymond, sticking with you for a second, you know, obviously racism played a huge role in everything that he did and overcame. Describe sort of the level of racism that he experienced and how that's reflected as well.
I think we feature, early in the film, we feature Martin Luther King, and it reminds me of a famous quote that Dr. King said was, he never felt the level of racism anywhere in the United States more than he felt in the city of Chicago. Not Alabama, not Mississippi, not Arkansas. So it was a very unique situation also in that most cities that have had Black mayors, there's either been a majority Black population or there's been a white flight, and it was sort of like what's left, and then the Black mayor comes in and tries to, you know, clean up what's left. In this case, everybody was entrenched with their own agendas, and there was a machine that was maybe the greatest political machine in the history of this country, which was Richard J. Daley, and Harold had to come in and try to dismantle that machine, which ultimately he did.
Sonya, do we forget, you know, some of what he had to overcome to win, and then, of course, to govern once he was elected? You know, because we have the benefit of history, are we just remembering the victories but not the battle?
I think sometimes we do just remember the victories. I think that Harold was so deeply loved, and you know, people speak of him so fondly, but it's an important cautionary tale, and it's almost like a Twilight Zone experience when you juxtapose Harold's experience to what ultimately happened to, you know, the person who stood on his shoulders, President Obama. And so I think it's a great reminder, and one of the reasons that, not one of the many reasons that we wanted to tell this story was the reminder that every generation has to fight for democracy. And even though things seem like they're better, you know, there's always something lurking around the corner that can, you know, cause the fight to have to start again.
And Raymond, go ahead, please.
I was going to add, you know, it's interesting you asked that question, because I think the impetus for this film was the idea that our director, who's Joe Winston, was having a conversation with someone about the battles that Obama was fighting with the Republican Party. And they were like, wow, isn't this terrible? And I think Joe was thinking that this has happened before. This is not new, this is not different, and let me tell you a story. And he went to look for a Harold Washington documentary, and there was none. So that's what sort of kicked this whole thing off.
So he made one with the two of you and
Yes.
some others. Raymond, the movie also provides, though, some education on Chicago politics and how it works, machine politics and the role of Republicans. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough that there were some folks who were a part of the machine, which Harold was a part of the machine. He was his father was a precinct captain, so he knew the insides of it. And we like to say he was in it, but not of it. But we were fortunate enough to get people like, you know, Dick Mell, for example, who's very forthcoming, very forthright in telling us how it actually worked and what their motivation was. And it was certainly about race, but it was also about power. So we think we give a really good education about those two dynamics. And Chicago, at that time, was the epicenter for the country. Everybody was watching to see what was going to happen.
And Sonya, in about 20 seconds, I apologize for the shortness of time. People have to watch the movie if they want to know more. But
Exactly.
what would you say about the legacy that Harold Washington leaves?
I think the legacy that he leaves is showing how to organize, showing that by reaching across the table, by working together, and by bringing everybody in, by supporting everyone, you can be successful.
Okay, well said and succinct. Thank you so much to Sonya Jackson and Raymond Lambert, and congrats on the completion of the film.
Thank
you. Still running through the 24th, virtually.
Good to know.
That's right.
Thank you. All righty.
Thanks.
Chicago arts organizations have been returning to the stage, including the Joffrey Ballet. Arts correspondent Angel Ito gives us a look at the Joffrey's first in-person production since the pandemic, on stage at its new home away from home, the Lyric Opera House.
The Joffrey Ballet returns in Home, a celebration. As it welcomes back company dancers and instructors, it's also welcoming new choreographers, including Chanel De Silva. As one of Joffrey's 2020 Winning Works choreographers, the New York-based artist is back with a dance embodied after the old Negro spiritual Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, accompanied by Zoe Keating.
I said, whoa, what if I make a piece based around, not so on the nose, but based around the idea of swing low, that this chariot comes down, interacts with you, and sweeps you back up into the great beyond.
De Silva reimagined that chariot as angels instead.
The idea of the wings brought about this idea of angels, and what does that even mean? Where do angels come from? Do they exist here on earth with us all the time? Are they heavenly creatures that come down and interact with humans? I tried to highlight the majesty of angels and the complexities of what it means to be human.
Now, De Silva describes the angels as messengers, guiding people through the human experience, or in this case, dancer Fernando Duarte.
There's angels that come across and I don't see them, and I just feel them like guiding, pushing me and nudging me in the right direction. She asked us the first day what it means to be an angel, or what does it mean to you to have a guardian angel? And I told her, I was like, you're my guardian angel because you came and you brought this piece, which is a gift. You selected me to dance and tell your story, and through your movement, and I couldn't be happier.
But De Silva doesn't expect everyone to receive her work in the same way.
For me, when I make work, I don't so much want to tell my audience exactly how to feel or what the story is. I consider myself just someone who's asking questions via my art. So when you watch Swing Low, there's a lot of different interpretations of what's happening, which I love. And you know, I feel like my job as a choreographer is to just use my art to investigate.
As for Home, a celebration as a whole, Joffrey's artistic director, Ashley Weeder, tells me there is one moment he is looking most forward to about the dancers' return to the stage.
For every piece to feel the power of the orchestra and the power of the public, that we're all together sharing in the spirit of dance, it's really from the heart.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Angelito.
And Home, a celebration, runs through October 24th. There are more details on our website. As we discussed earlier, the Chicago Sky has won the franchise's first WNBA title. A key part of that success was Candace Parker. She came back to her hometown and led the Sky to the top. In this week's The Last Word, we visited the place where Parker's ascent began, her former high school, Naperville Central.
She loves Chicagoland, and I think she really wanted to come back and make it happen here, kind of for her where it all started.
It was really amazing. I feel like it was just an amazing moment for Chicago in general, and for Candace too, like to be back in her hometown and help win a championship for her home team.
Because she's like well known and she's like an alumni here. So usually when people ask me what school I go to, like if I play basketball, like when I tell them I play basketball, they're like, oh, you know Candace Parker?
I think it's kind of surreal because she like grew up in my town, went to the same schools that I did. So it's inspiring for me just because I know I have the same opportunities that she did to possibly go as far as her.
Seeing them win the championship and how excited they were, it really made me excited for our basketball season, and it made me think about how I could be better as a player. And I just felt proud of the team and as the city as a whole.
Candace Parker is one of the nicest three players we've ever had. It was so phenomenal to have her here. I mean, obviously the most talented basketball player I've ever seen, let alone coached. And her love for basketball and her desire to work hard, that's a pretty three-pronged lethal combination. That's why she's as good as she is.
She knows where she came from, and she comes to give back, and she enjoys watching the girls play and excited.
To see somebody from Naperville and a woman go through with her team and win that, it's just almost like proud to see somebody like that win.
Usually a lot of people don't watch women's basketball, so I think Candace kind of laid out the blueprint for that and got more people into like watching women's basketball.
I feel like before it was hard because obviously everyone watches the men's league, but now that I feel like with Chicago bringing home the big win with the women's team, I feel like it's really helped make it a bigger deal around here.
I know it's inspiring to my current players, for them to see that set your goals, set your dreams, and work hard to achieve them.
Yeah, I think it like motivates me to really do my best and know that hard work pays off in the end.
Obviously, growing up as a girl, I really want like my talent to be shown, and I want people to like understand that just because I'm a girl doesn't mean like I can't play at that level.
I think Candace influences me a lot, as well as my sister. My sister came through here and played basketball for NUSSBAUM as well.
And since she is African American, it kind of gives me more hope that there's something like better for me in the future. So like it kind of like paves a pathway for me as well.
And Candace Parker is no stranger to being on top. While at Naperville Central, she led the girls basketball team to win back-to-back state championships in 2003 and 2004. She was also chosen as Gatorade's Player of the Year not just once, but twice. And that's our show for this weekend. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News, including what's next for Mayor Lightfoot's proposed $16 billion budget, which faces a full city council vote this week. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Black Voices and Latino Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. And please join me and Paris Schutz next week at 7 on Chicago Tonight. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
I'm gonna show you. Lexi, you want all of this heavy ass trophy, Miss Champion? Look, thank you, sir. Look.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that's proud to serve its community through pro bono legal services.